Hello and welcome everyone to another StarCraft 2 England cast. Today I have got a best of one game. It is from the Razer replay pack of the week, and it is of course starring LiquidNonY, who is the red Protoss player in the top right. He is playing against LGimix. Now he is the blue Terran player in the top left, and that means that we do have on our hands today a PvT. It should be an absolutely awesome game. It is of course the Razer replay pack of the week, as I said, and they usually only put good games in there, so I have been thoroughly enthralled and enjoying myself casting lots of NonY's games so far, and I cannot wait to see how this one plays out. Now, let's just think of PvT as a whole for the moment. Let's start off from the Terran's perspective. Firstly, obviously, a lot of Marines and Marauders, that's going to be his aim. Then really focusing on getting Stim as soon as possible, because that helps him counter out the gateway units. And then obviously it's just trickling in the medevacs to get the MMM ball. Obviously tanks are occasionally used, but it's not that common, and really once you've got MMM, you then go and start putting on some pressure. So let's then switch over to the Protoss perspective. You've got Marines, Marauders and medevacs on your doorstep. Stim is done and your gateway units are getting hammered. There's a big bio ball. You then have to have that AoE damage or area of effect damage to really deal with those, and Protoss actually have two key options to do that. They either have the High Templar with Sonic Storm, which is obviously a caster unit and obviously can morph into Archons as well, which can be effective, or they can go down the route of Colossus, which obviously are very, very powerful, especially when they get up to sort of about 3 to 4 of them. They get very, very potent. They do need supporting units as they are a little bit squishy. Now, obviously the High Templar are responded to by Imix with either Ghosts to EMP them, and if there's Colossus out, then obviously you get Vikings, because Colossus are vulnerable to air attack. Now, that may be very basic for some of you viewing, but that is really the rough outline of how this game will go down. There are other variations. You can see tanks, you can see Banshees, you can see Zealot, Archon for example, you can see an Immortal drop, whatever. But those are more unusual strategies, and ultimately will link back to the key aims. Now, a complete wall-off is very, very common here, because you don't want to do anything too risky. The Tech Lab coming down exceptionally early there for MX, really the earliest you can possibly get it, and that's, again, probably going to be used for Stim. We do have the second gas coming down here for NonY. That basically says that I'm not foregating, I'm focusing on going a lot of tech, I'm not going to be expanding quickly either. The Cybercore Duns SCV will get a good bit of scouting information off here. That Marine is holding the ramp. The reason for holding the ramp as opposed to sticking the Marine up here is purely because then if you pick off any scouting probes before it gets into this area, or even just up to the ramp, it then hides the key tech information from NonY that he won't know what's coming. Now the Zealot obviously can't catch down that SCV, but a Sentry on the way, a Reaper also coming out. That's an interesting choice, purely because of these back path here can be very effective. It will be really, really irritating. And if a Stalker doesn't come out, that's going to become difficult to deal with. The robotics facility was shown there from that SCV, so that's all very, very good. The Reaper on its way over. Stim hasn't started yet. There is enough gas, but not enough minerals quite yet, but there we go. So Stim does need to start ASAP. We've got the command center coming down as well now, and basically this Reaper is going to come and be a pain, and who can blame the Reaper for being a pain, because it should get a couple of probe kills. And I mean, the single sentry is a long way away, and that's the only real threat. Obviously pulling the probes as fast as possible. One probe goes down already, and now it's just a case of fighting as well as it can, and that force field not quite on the money. That's actually going to hinder the destruction of this Reaper more than help it. Obviously the sentry is the big threat. We've got the Chronoboost coming down on that single Immortal, the Reaper trying to get out as best it can, and well, if we take a look back at Imix's base, we've got the double racks following this up. We have got Combat Shield coming down before Stim. That suggests we're going to see some kind of defensive play, maybe a bunker thrown down, just really pump out a lot of Marines to try and stay alive and utilize this natural expansion as long as possible. But NonY, he is going for a bit more of an aggressive play. He's getting out the Immortals, and I mean, once that Immortal's out, a bit of a bad rally point, but actually going to go for some pressure. That could be really, really potent. This force may not look big, but with the force field, then obviously the Zealots are able to engage. The Immortal deals with any Marauders that may be out very, very effectively and quickly, and then the Stalkers can clean up everything else, so it's all good. Here comes down the factory. This is most likely just going to be for the tech path to a starport. May also be used to build a reactor just to get those double medevacs coming out, and of course this force is starting to get a little bit more sizable now. We've got some more Stalkers getting warped in as well, and I mean, it's going to be a case of LGimix is going to have to probably delay moving this orbital command down, just because he won't have enough forces to purely go for it. But the Observer will give vision of the high ground. We do have that bunker being built now. The Immortal will wreck the bunker very, very quickly, even though there are SCVs repairing. Once that Immortal comes in, it just does huge damage, but the single Marauder is going to be very, very annoying and prevent any poking. But I mean, NonY's doing exactly what he needs to. He's denying this base being taken for as long as possible. It's allowing him to start taking his own base beside that. Now that bunker doesn't actually quite have the range. That's going to be annoying because that's a free supply depot. I mean, once that goes down, obviously it's temporarily supply blocked LGimix. He hasn't even started building a new supply depot yet, only just starting now, so that's going to be quite a long supply block basically. That's going to again be very, very good for NonY. He's getting his robotics bay and pulling back completely. He's done a bit of damage, he's been irritating, and that's all he wanted to do. Now there goes down a scan to pick off the Observer. Obviously that scan, it costs about, well, effectively you can think of it costing 225 minerals because it's not a mule. And if you can compare that to the cost of an Observer, which of course is 2575, that's a good trade in my opinion. That Reaper is trying to come and do some more damage, but I mean, now all of these units are coming back. NonY should have no problem at all defending. Big pro transfer calming down. I mean, looking at the work count, 32 to 34 in LGimix's favour. That's fair enough because he does have this expansion and he has had it up in his base for a while, producing those units. Now, the medevac production will be about to start for LGimix now because he's transferring that starport over to where the factory was to utilise that reactor as best he can. Looking down here for NonY, he's just getting a couple of sentries up and a lot of zealots actually. That's a really quite high zealot count for this stage of the game. I'm surprised we aren't seeing any kind of Twilight Council yet to get charged. Obviously that makes Zealots a lot better unless he's kite, but we do have the Colossus coming out, so the Zealots will just simply act as a bit of a tanky force. This is starting to get a big force though for LGimix, and I mean, once we start seeing those medevacs come out, this will become very, very potent, although Stim is only a quarter done at nearly 10 minutes into the game, so we're not really going to be seeing Stim until roughly about 12 minutes, just before 12 minutes, so that is going to be quite late and means that there will be an opportunity for NonY to come and apply some pressure yet again. But I mean, the downside of going Colossus tech is of course the medevacs are already coming out 2 at a time, the reactor is already on the starport, and that basically means the Vikings can also be built 2 at a time, and Vikings are probably the best anti-air unit you can get, so it is really going to be an interesting time now, and it will appear that LGimix is going to go and put on some pressure before Stim is done though, so I expect he will wait until Stim is finished. The Marauder count very, very low, only 1 Marauder on the map, a lot of Marines. That's not necessarily bad apart from the fact that the Colossus is out, and that in itself is annoying. The Observer seeing an awful lot of movement of units, and therefore NonY going to come and greet them. That's purely because that gives him space to back away with the Colossus. Some good force fields go down, we should see some units get picked up. And now these are free units, and you know what everyone likes is free units. If we look at the loss tab, LGimix is coming out a lot worse than NonY right now, and that is always good. A scan did go off just to see if we could find the Observer, but the Observer is backed away, so that was another wasted scan. Another 225 minerals gone to waste. We do have the Templar Archives coming up, so again, this is just diversifying NonY's army, and I actually think getting the Colossus and the High Templar with Storm is great, because basically it allows you to deal the burst damage with Storm and then the Colossus just clean up. So it really is hitting them from every angle. It requires Ghosts and Vikings to be on the field. It's very, very awkward, and of course the tech switch in itself is brilliant, because the second the Colossus was revealed, by engaging that force, we saw LGimix immediately start producing those Vikings. So 2 already on the field, only being produced 1 at a time at the moment, more getting queued up, and that's due to a supply block. And I must say, LGimix being a slight bit clumsy, not clumsy, that's another way word, a slight bit I can't think of the word right now, but basically he should be careless. He's being a bit careless, not getting those supply depots quite in time. Obviously supply blocks delay all of your build, all of your units, and it's a bit of a pain generally. Only 4 Stalkers out, so they're going to struggle to deal with the Vikings if their numbers get much higher before a lot of damage is done, and Pylon gets picked off. Now of course NonY is supply block, more Pylons are quite a way away, good 20 seconds until they'll be produced. That's again delaying all the units. We do have a scouting factory coming across, and scouting factories never cease to amuse me. Now LGimix there poking down here just to check for a 3rd base, because obviously if there was a 3rd up he could pick it off really, really easily, force a cancel, but of course NonY not tried to go for that yet. The High Templar are out, although we don't have I know Storm is now researched, so that's all good. Sorry for the misclick there. And well, now there can be an awful lot of damage, but the scan goes off, will show the High Templar, will show the Colossus count, and Imix is clearly feeling quite confident right now. Should see some good force fields. There we go, absolutely amazing. The Storm goes down as well. Just look how quickly Colossus plus Storm wreck unit. Now the big threat though is so many Vikings. The Stalkers are trying to deal with them, but the Colossi get taken down ever so quickly, and now it's just a case of cleaning up, and NonY seems to have come out very well from this battle. He did lose his Colossus admittedly, but he still just has so much more in terms of units. He does have obviously those High Templar as an option to go to, and with 6 gateways, at least 6 actually, 7 gateways, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yep, 7 gates can produce an awful lot of units very, very quickly if NonY does have the money to do it. And obviously by going out of the Colossus tech, the Vikings which are on the field already are pretty much wasted, although we do have the one Colossus coming down now. That factory will eventually explode. Now, the downside to sending the factory to scout is if it gets picked off and you don't have another one somewhere, that means you are getting no more starports, which can be a problem if you see the Protoss player really ramp up the Colossus production, because obviously you just can't produce enough Vikings to deal with those, and it can be a bit of a pain, or the medevac production, etc. So far this is a pretty balanced game actually, and I'm really interested to see who's going to come out on top. I mean, by the loss tab, I mean that in itself is incredibly level for this stage of the game. 16 minutes in and being that close is really, really close. So these two players actually going really head to head. The Storm goes up on the Vikings. That did manage to get 1 unit, and that actually now just putting NonY slightly more ahead in terms of his cost-effective nature. The volley from the Vikings did do all of the shield damage to the Colossus, but no health damage, which basically means those shields will regenerate. The Zealot numbers getting really high, and they do have +2 armor as well, so suddenly going to see those Zealots be very, very tanky. That's compared to, of course, the 1-1 upgrades for Imix, +2 infantry weapons just started, although he has got that second engineering bay done as well, so not utilising that quite yet. Now, we do still have more Vikings producing. If we take a look at the army tab, very close indeed. I mean, the only slight advantage is Imix in terms of how many works he's got, but he has just taken his 3rd base, and that is going to be very, very potent. One Marine just sitting down there, keeping an eye on if and when a 3rd is taken by NonY. And essentially, if Imix can hold this 3rd base, the production will just be so insane, so intense, there'll be no way the NonY will be able to keep up. So he's got to think at some point about taking the 3rd, and that's exactly what he's doing here. And it's a good choice, because if you know your opponent's gone for a 3rd, which I believe NonY does now, or no, he doesn't actually, but there is a mineral field depleted somewhere. That is never a good sign. It means that you're going to be down to 1 mining base shortly, and of course Imix, while he has mined out his main pretty thoroughly, he's got that 3rd base coming down now, and that's going to help him tremendously. The +2 infantry armor on the way down for Imix as well right now. That's obviously with a +1 ground attack coming down for NonY. Now, in come the Zealots. Charge is done. Great utilization of the brush here, just preventing vision. I mean, these Colossi are absolutely mowing down so many Immortals as well. The Stalkers focusing those Vikings as best they can, and a lot of the Colossus do manage to stay up. The bunker gets focused down, and NonY looks like he's got an awful lot of momentum here. Good storms going down literally everywhere. This 3rd base, if it does get taken out, would be an absolutely massive loss. The Stalkers should be able to finish it off. The Colossi will probably start focusing down all of those SCVs very, very shortly, which in itself is a huge, huge loss. And if we look now, 39 to 53 workers, NonY suddenly getting the economic advantage. He goes 3rd on the way, and now obviously Imix has got to worry about the fact of, can he keep up with production now? He's got to trade very, very cost effectively, or he's going to have absolutely huge problems moving on. So we'll wait and see how this does play out. I mean, basically everything NonY's doing right now is trying to get a good position. He wants to engage from the side so that both bunkers aren't utilised simultaneously. He wants to try and get his army in the best possible engagement he can, and obviously in the higher league, army positioning becomes incredibly critical, because it's no longer about who has more stuff. It's lots of little things, the micro, the pre-engagement planning. And that's actually something which you can really focus on an awful lot in the lower leagues, is even if you can't micro that well in battles, think about where your army is before you engage. So spread out your army, make sure you've got a good spread, make sure you're preparing for those flanks if possible. And I mean, now we've got Imix really on the ropes. He looks like he's going to have to try and go for a base trade. He knows a lot of his army's out of position. He's going to just really go for it. Try and pick off this natural base, which would be a really big loss to NonY. But I mean, by picking that off, even though he's getting an awful lot of those workers, the force field goes down. That will prevent anything coming back up. And now this should all get cleaned up very, very comfortably. A second force field goes down there. Once the Colossus come in as well, we will see that all get cleaned up very, very quickly. But I mean, to be honest, Imix is doing an awful lot of damage. Storms go down now, and that will be the end of it. And I mean, if we take a look here, 73 to 30 army supply is a big, big difference. If we look at the work count, 41 to 43, so that did level up significantly. But the key thing I'm looking at right now is they are both on one mining base effectively, and that's good times for Imix. I think that was worthwhile. I mean, yes, he lost a lot of army, but he's got an awful lot of production facilities around. All the SCVs getting moved down just to natural base because why on earth not? There's no minerals up at the top. And, well, we're going to see just NonY try and advance forward. He needs to engage very cost effectively. He started a fourth base as well. That's a good move. He knows that he has Imix on the ropes. He knows he's killed all of Imix's army and his third base, so you might as well just keep expanding and use the fact you have a bigger force to your advantage. But this is great micro out of Imix. That force field wasn't quite on, did allow a couple of units to slip through, but for the moment we've got Imix trying to lose, well, losing a lot of stuff, not trying to. And just a little squad coming down here. Obviously the Marauders will be very, very helpful in dealing a lot of damage, but if this natural base falls, then obviously you're going to have big problems. And there is the GG right there from Imix. So guys, if you did enjoy that video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe because I get new top level games up every single day, leave a cool comment below and follow me on Twitter. That would be awesome. So most importantly though, I really hope you enjoyed the cast and I hope to see you again. Bye for now.